Welcome everyone to this new session, day two, question two. Guys, this is an interesting journey, and I'm sure you will learn a lot even in this video. All right, so if you look at the screen here, we're going to be focusing on question two. So, the use case, let's quickly go over that. Sales operations is validating processing exceptions for specific orders. Let's take note of the orders. So the IDs are between 45979 to 45983 and shipment made between April 1st to 3rd, 2003 to ensure SLA adherence and correct shipping documentation. Now, the business impact, it will identify bottlenecks in order fulfillment and improves SLA performance. Now, your task is to prepare a reconciliation extract highlighting order and ship date filters. And this is what the data really looks like, right? And it's essentially the entire attribute. So looking at our formula of table, attribute, and filters, we definitely see that we don't need to worry about the attribute because all the attributes are represented. However, where is the table located? Right? We can see it's related to orders, and that tells us is sales order header. Let me quickly take you back to the domain that we have here. And when you go to under sales, right? Let's look at sales order header. You can see it tells us an order level details including dates, totals, and shipping. So that's really what we need to focus on. Okay, and we have identified the table. Then we talk about the filters, right? If you look at these filters, you can see we need to specify this range, and also we need to specify the ship date within this range. Okay, those are the things we need to factor in. So having understand the use case, let's dive into our lab. Okay, now with our lab, we will just quickly look at, now we know the table, right? The first thing we want to do is just to actually take a look at the data itself. So we say select star from our table. Okay, so let's pull our table to the from, and then let's run that. Okay, now we see we have over 30,000 record, which is great. Now that we have this, let's begin to put in our filters, right? So we'll put in the where clause stating sales order ID, and then we're going to introduce between because it's within two range, right? It's between a range. We have the starting number and then the ending order number. Okay, let's go back to pull that range. Okay, now we'll pull this record, go back to our lab, right? And then we'll drop in the lab, the range, and then we just add Andy, and then we run it. So basically what we expect is that the orders should be within this order identifiers 45979 and 45983. So let's run that, and that's exactly what we have. We see it works quite well. Now what the business is asking us for is that also they want to know when the ship date, and we can see the ship date here, so we're just going to write that out, and ship date is between as well. We're just gonna reference, and then you're gonna follow you can see the ship date is a timestamp without time zone, right? So we're just gonna follow reference and the date. It should work in this case, so let's try that. Otherwise we may need to specify the timestamp, but I think it should work. So let's look at that. 0401, and then we also say and we just copy this 01, and then we just copy that. All right, and then we'll say 03, and then we just run it. Okay, now this is great. So let's take a look at the ship date, and then we can see it's between 2023 0403 and 2023 0401, which is great. Now I want to point out here is that we see that in some cases I put a single quote around the filter values, some I don't. Now what determine that is really the data type. Here is integer, so we don't need to put a quote around it because it's integer, right? And where it's timestamp or date, we need to put a quote around it because that is how the computer or the system is able to really know that we're referencing It did. Now, what we want to focus right now is to really understand the difference between and or. Okay, and basically combines multiple conditions and return rules only when all conditions, note that, are true. So, for example, if I put and here, what it will look for is that it will make sure this is true and this as well is true, and then it will return the value. So with and, we can say it's more restrictive because all the conditions has to be true for it to return a value, right? And then here we just, if we change to all, and then we'll see it returns more value. So what's going on? So for all, it combines multiple conditions. However, it returns rows when at least one condition is true. Okay, so that means that this condition may be false. If this condition is true, it will return the value that satisfies this condition. This condition may be false, and if this condition is true, it returns the value that satisfies it. So it doesn't need both to be true. Now, if you want to make it more mathematical, you can put it in bracket, okay? And then it would help you to kind of group each of the condition into two different conditions. All right, because someone might confuse this as different condition, whatever, right? So but with the bracket, it just lets you differentiate the different conditions. So now the way to think about is when you want all the conditions to be satisfied, and then that's more restrictive in nature, then you use and. When you want it to be less restrictive, then you use or. That is really how you want to really think about this, okay? And then you can then just add order by, and then say, says order ID, and then again, like, it's gonna be default, but because it's the first column, but if you can make it explicit, that's fine as well. And then if you want to get the same value you have in that GitHub, so what you're gonna do is you're just gonna add limit here, and then you say 5, okay? And then you should have the same value. So we're gonna compare this value with what we have, and if you compare, you can see 83, 82, 10, 10, 10, 983, 982. Let's go back to our lab, and then you should see 983, 982. So it works fine, and that's exactly what the accurate result we are looking for. All right, I hope this has been helpful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next session.